Meat judging, to start off, is one of the most beautiful things that introduces students that know nothing about the meat industry or animal agriculture to meat science and the meat industry.
Hello, meat folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. This is your hungry and humble host, Phil Bass, back yet again for another week with a meat enthusiast. And this time, we're bringing in some of the younger generation, folks. We have with us the president of the Student American Meat Science Association Board of Directors, Megan Eckhardt. Megan, how you doing today?
Absolutely wonderful. We are opening our facility to a bunch of passionate young meat scientists, and we are happy to see them. So it's a beautiful day in Canyon, Texas.
Oh, I love that enthusiasm. And as you've just mentioned, Canyon, Texas is the home of West Texas A&M University, and that's where Megan is working on her graduate studies right now. We won't get into that necessarily because for folks out there listening who are not part of the academic world, sometimes it's best to go ahead and just collect the data, get the things analyzed, get it into a publishable form before we start talking about that. So we'll bring Megan back another time to talk more about her research that she's working on. But what I wanted Megan to come here and talk about is for those out there in the industry who maybe are having some of those sleepless nights and wringing of the hands, wondering how is it that we're going to keep this industry running in the next several years. I like to talk about the business aspect of the industry regularly on this podcast. And part of that is making sure that we're bringing on the next set of leaders to help run the meat business. And so, Megan, you're going to be one of those leaders one of these days. And one of those things, first off, I want you, as the representative of the students of the American Meat Science Association, I do believe that you're well enough qualified to represent those students in maybe telling us a little bit about, as a young professional or soon to be young professional, what are your interests going forward, and what are some of the interests that would help bring in more folks to the industry, younger folks to the industry, and not just bring them in, but keep them there?
Yeah, no, that's great. It opens up a lot of room for discussion. Something over the years that I've kind of noticed from my experience at different universities or with internships or positions within different conferences or jobs, is really finding a sense of community. I mean, you can be the hardest working person in the room, and that's really valuable and important. You can know all the things you can possibly know in an area or a field, but ultimately you need a great community and support system. And so if I'm going to go out into the industry today, or if I'm going to try and find a new program to become a part of, I really want to walk in the door and feel like I'm a part of a family and a community. And so it may be the most esteemed business in the world or university, and that's great. That's awesome. But I want to know that I've got teammates and people to work with, because it's really hard to conquer the world in your life alone. So people are important.
Yeah, being part of a team, a functioning team, is extremely valuable. And I see that pattern. I'm glad you said that, because I've seen that pattern in any size business that's out there. If there is a good sense of community and a sense of belonging by the employees, there's ownership, there's buy-in, there's a desire to be there at that point. And then it's one of those, and you've kind of alluded to this. It's nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And I know that sounds a little cliche and a little touchy-feely, but gosh darn it, folks, we have to realize that people do want to be cared and want to be welcomed where it is that they're working. And sounds like you're doing that with your meats judging team right now, or at least I hope that's the community you're building.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to add one more thing. So it's interesting when I look at my experience and the teams that I've been a part of, or the groups that I've been a part of at these different universities. You know, you clock in 8 a.m., you leave by 5 p.m. That's a typical work day. But I think back about all the really pleasant memories and awesome experiences I've had there are many days that maybe we're not working, but we're all sitting in the office and it's 7 o'clock at night because we just got caught up talking about something or snacking on something, and we're just enjoying each other's company. And so that's really valuable to me.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, that's really saying something. That means you have a team that you want to be a part of and want to be in the presence of. I know quite often I tell folks that when we're bringing someone on to our research team here at the University of Idaho, uh, I spend more time seeing if that person is a good fit for the team more so than spending time looking over their transcripts and their understanding of science, this, that, and the other. We'll teach that part. That's fine. And yeah, you have to have good grades to get into a graduate program, and you have to be competent in that category. But if you're not a good fit personality wise, that makes it a little difficult. And it seems like that's something that the younger crowd's looking at. And honestly, you guys are probably coming from it from a more instinctual background, which is fantastic. And that's exactly what I wanted you to be telling the world right now, is that if it's not instinctual to try to build a sense of community and a well functioning team, then we need to get there. And that's how we're going to bring the next set of leaders on. So cool. What so Megan, you're also helping to coach and have coached in the past a meats judging team. And first off, we've never really talked about that here on MeatsPad. And so I want you to just briefly tell the listeners out there who are unfamiliar with meats judging what that is. And tell me a little bit about your coaching personality, and how you're coaching your peers.
Okay, so this is probably, if I've ever been interviewed before, probably my favorite question. And I don't know that I've quite been asked it like you have asked it. And so meat judging, to start off, is one of the most beautiful things that introduces students that know nothing about the meat industry or animal agriculture to meat science and the meat industry. I'm from the hill country of Texas. I grew up on a farm. We raised cattle and sheep. And I got to high school, and this ag teacher, he saw something in me and he said, I want her to be a part of my teams while she's here at Smithson Valley High School. And so he recruited me to be on some of his FFA teams, but then, of course, most importantly, he recruited me to be on his FFA meat judging team, which then turned into our 4-H meat judging team. And so that's where I really got my first taste of the meat industry ever, of any capacity whatsoever. And from there, I was like, man, I really like this stuff. I really like that I get to travel and I get to see all these really cool things across the state of Texas. And then I learned that, hey, they actually do this in college. And so I was recruited to judge collegiate meat judging. And I have not looked back since. I judged on the 2018 Reserve National Champion Texas Tech meat judging team, where then I was recruited to Angelo State to coach their judging team in 21. And now I'm here at WT. I coach the 2023 first ever national champion meat judging team at West Texas A&M University. And I'll be helping out this year and then coaching another team in 25. What I like to think about what meat judging is, you're ultimately evaluating the products that we see every day within the meat industry, fresh meat specifically. We evaluate beef, pork, and lamb, carcasses, wholesale cuts, and then, of course, we go into the grading system. We learn about yield and quality grading and ultimately separate those carcasses based off of value. And so we kind of get a really good look at what AMS does within USDA, and then we learn more about the product that we get to see at the grocery store. About coaching my peers, this is another really, really important thing to me, is I've mentioned community and family within the meat industry. When I was on my judging team at Texas Tech, we were a community. We were a group of friends. We hung out on the weekend. We hung out after class. We helped each other with our classes. We took classes together so that we could be together. Riding in the vans, hands down the best and most fun experiences I've had with that judging team. I miss those people on a daily basis, and I'm grateful for those that I really keep in touch with on a daily basis. Now, when I transitioned into the coaching role, I got to make this my own. This was my avenue. This was my way to connect these students with the industry. Maybe they had experience, maybe they hadn't. I got to help them thrive. I got to introduce this passion that I have for this industry and share with them, like, hey, by the way, there are all these different options. You don't have to just do this. You don't have to work in a plant. You can work in marketing. You can work in brand recognition, quality, food safety. There's so many different sectors. But the biggest thing for me, yes, a successful meat judging team might be defined as winning. But to me, a successful meat judging team is building good people for the community, future employers and employees, good family members, good parents, great spouses, great brothers and sisters, and that's really important. So when I foster that environment for these students, what's important to me is that they know that I love them like they are my own kids. Like I cherish the time I spend with them, and I truly would do anything to help make them successful or whatever they need in life. And I know there's the type of coaches that are hard, fast. This is the way it needs to be done. It needs to be a strict, tight environment. And yeah, I'm going to stay on you to get your work done and to be productive. But at the same time, I want you to know that at the end of practice, if you need to cry on my shoulder, or if you need a hug, or if you want to tell me about your big accomplishment of the day, I'm there to receive it. And this is a family.
Oh my gosh. Well, if there was any doubt whether or not Megan is the right person to be the president of the American Meat Science Association Student Board, then I think that has just eliminated all doubt. That is an amazing answer, and I want to follow up on that. I wrote something down here, and you've kind of alluded to it. How important is empowerment? Because you've mentioned, there are teams that are very strict, and these are the guidelines, and there's no deviation from it. You must do this, this, and this. And I've started to learn over the years that, and I think General Patton said something like this: give a person a task, and you'd be surprised at what they'll do, and in a good way, right? I've really relied on empowering someone to say, here, I need you to do something. I need you to do a thing. And I've been so impressed by the results that come from that. And it's not always 100%. It's hard to relinquish the relinquish all the duty to that person, but it's buy-in, it's ownership of that task. And I'm rambling now. So Megan, take it away. How important is empowerment to your teammates?
Yeah. So kind of the first thing that I do when I get to know my judging team is first, like, I don't want them all to say, hey, this is really hard. This is super time consuming. I'm going to just like quit and go do other fun college things instead of judge meat. And so that kind of plays along with, I want them to feel like they're a part of a community. But then with that, I be sure, like, when we start, they're not going to know much. They're not going to do it correctly. But I want them to know that the few things that they are doing correctly, they know it. And it's really important to me, because that's how I always thrived as a person. Is significance is one of my top 5 strengths with the Clifton Strengths Finder. And I need to be told every now and then, Megan, you're doing a good job. And I've realized that about a lot of other students, that they deserve to know, hey, you've done at least one thing right today. And I do my best to highlight that. And maybe it's in front of the entire group. Maybe it's over there in a corner, just the two of us. But I let them know, hey, you're doing an exceptional job. Maybe you should share this with your teammates. And even so, I might say, after we grade a set of reasons, everybody go look at Helene's back page. This was an awesome set. You could really learn from this. And so I feel like when you highlight an individual's strengths or something that they've done really well, they feel that sense of accomplishment and empowerment. Knowing that I believe in them and knowing that I have confidence in them is only going to strengthen their confidence, and ultimately they will feel empowered.
Yeah. Yeah. Highlighting high points. I mean, that's so important, and reminding folks that they do matter, and their contribution to the team, no matter the position, is so critical. And for the business operators out there, I can't stress enough how important it is for, if you're one of the big wig leaders, show up and be present and go shake hands of, even all the way down to the newly hired person that's running the squeegee on the floor. Just tell them that they matter, and remind them of how they're helping make the business run better, or make the team run better. And they're going to want to stick around. That's a big part of this employment and labor shortage right now, is people they're going to stick around if they want to and they feel like that they belong. And that's probably what you're saying with your team. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes. And it's actually funny. Before this, I was kind of chit-chatting with our Meat Lab manager here, and I was kind of asking and questioning him on some values of what he thinks in a workplace environment. And he's like, I've worked at this Meat Lab since I was the freshman undergrad. I was the low man on the totem pole, and now he's risen to be a graduate student and now running the facility. It is important to acknowledge that these people have done their job well. They need to be told, I'm grateful you're here, job well done. And we reward them for their hard work. And I think that's incredibly valuable.
Yeah. The old business model of, well, you got paid, that's your reward. It's nice, but it's not sustainable. And I promise everybody out there listening that you can get a lot more out of people by telling them thank you, than just making sure that they have that paycheck. Although the paycheck's pretty darn important too. Don't skimp on that side, but telling people that they matter, they're of value to the team, is just as important. And gosh, I'd almost say it's even more important in some cases. So that's pretty cool. I want to ask, you've already mentioned it, but let's just make sure we cover all the bases. How did you get involved in meat science? You talked about your high school experience, but what led you to wanting to go all the way for a PhD in meat science?
No, that's even better, because I have a way that I initially got started, but the thing that really sent me home, I'll get to that. So as I mentioned, I judged meats in high school, and I was recruited and went off to judge collegiate meat judging, and of course stayed really involved with coaching. And I love the people. I love the competition, the spirit, what it does to students to really get them fired up about meat science. I was a freshman when I had an upperclassman come up to me and say, hey, what are you doing this summer? You should stick around, you should attend this conference, but then secondly, you should compete on our meat science quiz bowl team. All right, so this is where I feel really guilty when I admit this, because I probably have been more involved with meat judging than anything else in my life. But something that I might just love just a little bit more than meat judging, which I didn't think was possible, is meat science quiz bowl. And so I competed on the quiz bowl team for 3 years while I was at Tech. We were reserve my second year that I had competed in Colorado. Well, I guess that was the year before, the second year that I competed. And I remember I was just heartbroken, and I cried. I was so upset. But I came back, and that next year I was fired up, and 2 of the teammates I had already competed with for the first 3 years, and our third teammate was on their second year, and then I was there. So it was a well-seasoned team. And I was like, all right, this year, that was the year we went to Colorado. I said, we're going to do it. We're going to win it this year. And we worked incredibly hard. And I know more today as a graduate student about meat science because of my experience with Quiz Bowl. And I have thoroughly enjoyed learning this type of material and this knowledge, and really it could be anything, but in that environment of competition and spirit, where it was just like, I get to do this with my friends every day, and I get to go and showcase my knowledge in front of people and hopefully educate others. I loved it when I was a competitor. And then of course I lost my eligibility when we finally won my third year that I competed. I went on and I'm like, all right, we've got to continue this. We've just got to keep putting this forward. And I coached the Quiz Bowl team for 2 years while I was at Angelo State. And then I coached the Quiz Bowl team here at WT now for my second year. And to watch their light bulbs come on when I am teaching them about meat science, and we're talking about meat color or muscle to meat or the sarcomere, it's really great. It was really funny. I was talking to a girl the other day, and I was teaching her this concept. And when she finally got it, I saw the light bulb come on, and I've got to say that was the fluorescent light bulb. It was the largest light bulb I've ever seen in my life, but it was so fulfilling. It was awesome. And that was one of those things where it really showed me that I love working with students, and I love teaching, and I love the science behind the meat industry. And I want to keep putting forth that so that we have wholesome products out in the meat industry, high quality cuts, and we have people that we can fill the industry with. And so ultimately, I want to fill that position where I can provide, or I can contribute to the education that will soon one day be the industry personnel and hardworking employees. And so I've loved working with undergrads, and I just hope to continue to do that. And that's most of the reason why I've gone all the way to a PhD. I've also really enjoyed research. I was involved with research as an undergrad, and then of course went on to do my thesis at Angelo State. And now I've dipped my toes in a couple of different buckets while I'm here at WT. And I'm just excited to see what all we can tell the industry in the coming year.
Wow. 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 So, um, uh, two things to remind our listening audience out there who aren't of the academic world, and if you're not a member of American Meat Science Association yet, yet another reason to become. But so the PhD level is pretty much the entry level to get into be a permanent instructor at a university, and that's what Megan is striving to become at some point in her professional life. But then on the other side, the Quiz Bowl, if you've never attended the Reciprocal Meat Conference, which this year is in Oklahoma City, and I don't have the dates here in front of me, but it's in Oklahoma City this year in June. Go and check that out, because you'll get to see a whole mess of young folks who are it's kind of a Jeopardy-like situation, but much more high-paced, and it's topics relating to the meat industry and meat science, so the academic side of things, and it's everything. It's questions about literally everything, and it's very, very impressive to see the knowledge base of all of the folks that are attending the Quiz Bowls, that are participating in it. It becomes a very sought after accomplishment for those who are participating, as Megan has already alluded to. And it's really cool to see that you're now, Megan, coaching and helping teach folks in that regard, maybe in a little more informal setting than what you may eventually do at a university. But how cool is that? And I applaud you for your enthusiasm. I applaud you for your leadership, for your peers and your colleagues, the underclassmen that are being influenced by you. Folks out there, if you're wondering what the future is going to look like, if Megan is leading it, the future is very, very bright, and I appreciate all of this. And speaking of which, when do you plan on graduating with this PhD, Megan?
So that's a $1 million question. If I take care of business and I don't dip my toes in too many other teams and events, I plan to graduate in the fall of 2025, as
Okay.
I will coach the 2025 meat judging team. I will see them to the end. So we'll take every day as it comes and see what happens.
See what happens. Well, and that's even if it does extend a little bit of your time, it's all very worthwhile. It's developing you as a person, as a leader. You're going to be continuing to develop the underclassmen, which is extremely important as well. And for folks out there who are maybe wondering if we can go ahead and get Megan hired, stay tuned for fall of 2025. Maybe we'll have her back here to talk about her research that she's been working on as a graduate student. So anyway, Megan, thank you so much for joining us on MeatsPad, and we'll see you around.